All right. Well, hello and welcome to episode. People that are smarter than me keep track of what episode that we're on. It's probably like 13 or 14 at this point. I'm not 100% certain.
We're on episode 14.
We're on episode 14. Wow. See how close I could guess. That's awesome. We are a Star Trek Adventures game that records ourselves and puts the games out there, hopefully to tell Star Trek stories that people might enjoy. We are a group of former Foundry authors from Star Trek Online who when that game shut down their foundry still wanted to be able to tell stories. So here we are telling the story of the USS Reliant and the crew that is on board. Our Captain Marcus Graves, played by Duncan Idaho.
Hello.
Our first officer, Alenis Kendra, played by Alenis Kendra.
Hello, everyone.
We have our chief engineer, an interesting character who visually a kind of a midway point between the Gorn and the Saurian. So a lizard race is our chief engineer, and that's Chief Engineer Rick Tier, played by Bazag.
Greetings, everyone.
Our chief science officer is the first officer's husband, and he is also a longtime Foundry author like myself. Cass Modian plays Quentin Reynolds, our chief of sciences.
Did you turn it off and on yet?
We have Chaplain Victor Whately. Now, he's called a chaplain because the Reliant has something we haven't seen in Star Trek in a long time. There is an All Faiths chapel on board due to the fact that there are many Federation races who do have religions that they venerate, and so there's a chapel on board the Reliant for all of them. And Whately, in addition to being the ship's counselor, sees after that All Faiths chapel. Whately is played by a Twitch streamer, friend of ours, the Grumpy Old Lord.
Greetings and salutations, everyone. Counseling sessions will continue as regularly scheduled, and I expect to see you all soon.
Our chief medical officer, who has a lot to do this coming episode, is Dr. Eli O'Connor, a friend of ours and fan of Foundry missions and Star Trek Online in general, which, by the way, we are a game set in the Star Trek Online universe. Our chief medical officer is Dr. Eli O'Connor, a Starfleet something of a little bit of a prodigy, and he is our ship's doctor. He is I can't remember. He's half Trill, correct?
Half Trill, half human.
Half Trill. This is our friend Nick. There we go. He's half Trill, half human. And our last but certainly not least, the lovable ensign who flies the ship, who also has extended training in Starfleet sciences, specifically biological and life sciences. That is Ensign Kara June Rani. She is the fourth IBI in Starfleet, also quite possibly about to in a way meet the one of the other IBI that serve in Starfleet, and that is our cast. I am John, and I like to tell stories, and that's just what I like to do. So tonight's episode comes up before credits would roll, as it were. Tonight's episode comes up in the sick bay as Dr. O'Connor is returning from his time on the bridge during the last episode. Walking into the Reliant is not... It's not the Enterprise. It's not an Odyssey class ship. It's not, it's not a Galaxy class ship. It's essentially the size of a Miranda, just a little bit bigger. And so the area dedicated to sickbay is smaller. You don't have these grand sweeping. You have a smaller sickbay. And as you walk in, Dr. O'Connor, you see the doctors that you know working working diligently with physicians, assistants, and nurses that are in there, working on the many people that the last 24 hours have seen rescued from, in the case of the officers of the Texas, rescued from Borg assimilation, seemingly soon enough that they are returning. They some of them are returning very quickly to the knowledge of who they are. It seems the shorter that they were assimilated, the easier that is. But for all of the ones that you brought from the Texas, they are all, when you left sickbay, they are all recovering just fine. And as I explained to you before game, what you walk into is the 3 Borg that were just brought on board from Borg structure, from the Unimatrix the Borg were trying to build. They look different physically. I told you that one was a human, one was a Romulan, and one was an Ibi. All of them look basically like the members of their race that you expect to see. They have the same limb size, basically. They have the same, ear sizes and facial structures, but all of them, their skin is pale, completely paled away. They have more machine parts in them than any other person in your sick bay. It looks like the nanites have been based on what the autopsy that you did, you're certain they've had nanites working on them for months now, at the very least, if not longer. And that's the first thing you can tell walking into your sick bay. And also, Dr. 3 is working with stabilizing those 3 patients. And when you walk in, she looks up and she says, "Doctor, I'm going to suggest induced coma for these 3. When and if they awaken, they will try to assimilate the sick bay. That much is certain. Right now, they are inoculated, knocked out, but I'm going to suggest coma until we can get work done on them."
Make it so.
Your doctor, Dr. Ged, actually takes charge of doing that as Dr. 3 walks over to you while you're still aside from, some of the rest of the staff, and she goes, "Dr. O'Connor, we're aware that these last 3 are not what we equipped this sickbay to deal with. This is long-term. This is extreme long-term assimilation, at least in the case of the Romulan. I can't even begin to guess how long he has been Borg. The others, from what I can tell based on the implants that they have been assimilated for months. Not 4 months, but they have been assimilated for at least a period of many months. What do you want to do?"
Well, we're going to have to help them, so let's start surgery as fast as possible.
"I'll get things prepped." And she moves to a table and she says, "The best thing we can do right now is to confuse the hell out of them by disconnecting them from the collective. The procedure will be much the same, though there may be unseen complications due to the overwhelming number of nanites in their systems at this point. I'll get us prepped." And she goes ahead and starts prepping the surgery, and you look over your sick bay and you realize not only is there just there's a physical difference in the way that they look, in that they look more pale. Their eyes are more blank and distant than they're open, even though they've been sedated, and their eyes are just these blank white sheens. There's no indication of it's like just looking into pools of whiteness when you look over at their eyes. And they are currently separated from the other Borg in your sickbay. So they're not they're in a different. You have at least 2 little rooms in your sick bay, and they're in the second one. And you can see that Dr. 3 goes ahead in with Dr. Ged, and they begin to prep the surgery. There are doctors in here you don't know that are wearing they're all wearing the same sort of uniform. It's if you look in the Star Trek Online game, it's the Sierra 1 uniform is what they are wearing. And they have on medical greens, and they are helping. Is there anything that you want to do? The surgery isn't going to begin right away, but that's where you are and what we see. What does Dr. O'Connor want to do in that situation?
Do we have any security down here?
You look around. Do we have any security down here? And you notice when you ask that there's a security officer at the outside of your office, and a security officer at the outside of the door to the second room. So you have 2 security officers down here.
I'm going to request 1 additional because two might not be enough. 3, 1 for each one, at the very least.
Okay, you give a call to security, and you get a response. We'll have someone down there as quick as we can, Doctor.
All right.
Anything else you want to do?
I'm going to start helping prepping the surgery.
Okay, give me a medical check, and you can roll 1 extra die for the person that is for you're being assisted by 2 people, but only one of them can actually provide help to you. In this case, you need reason and medicine. So your target number is 15, and you have prosthetics and cybernetics, you have trauma surgery, you have enough focuses that apply, so your critical number is 4 and below. And that's for prepping the surgery. I am going to add, Baz, how much threat does it take for me to lower the number?
Lower the complication range.
Yeah, lower the complication range.
Yeah, it's 1 threat per number. So if you want to reduce it to 16, that'll take 4 dice. 4 threat.
I am going to add 4 threat. You prepping the surgery. Remember, you can get 1 extra die from someone helping you. I'm gonna, if it's Ged, it's based on your numbers minus 1.
All right, so I'm just making sure I got this command.
If it's Dr. 3, base her on your numbers, and you can just roll. Essentially, just roll 3 dice. You have 3 dice to get a minimum of 2 successes. If you get anything above a 15, you're.
All right, and don't I get a roll from the ship as well?
Baz, can you get help from both a person and from the ship?
Well, it depends whether the ship is like sort of fitted out. If you're using if the ship is enough resources.
The ship is fitted out for this. So yes, you get 4 dice. The ship operates at your numbers minus 1, and it does count as having the specialty. And of course, so do Ged, and so I'm
not sure. So I'm just going to
roll 4
dice.
Roll 4 dice. 4 is your critical range, and there you go. You got 1 complication. The last 2, however, are a success and then your complication. The ship gives you the complication, but you got 3 successes and build 1 momentum. Woohoo! You got a momentum. However, there is a complication. You got nanites in the ship, Eli. No. In prepping the surgery with the other 2 doctors, that comes from the ship. Oh, I got one. You have the 3 of them in there. The human has an area in its brain that is approximately the size of like a large 6-sided dice. It's not super big, but it's not super small either. So it's like a little cube of some sort of alloy that your scanners cannot get past, and it is in his head. It has taken up part of his brain, and there are a number of tiny capillary tubules that run in and out of it. So there's your complication.
Well, that's horrifying.
You cannot scan what's inside of that cube. And noticing that in prepping the surgery, we shift to the first of scenes that people wanted to get done right after. We go to the engineering bay. And if I'm correct, Rick, you were on the last away team, yes?
Yes.
And so now that you're back on the ship, you tend to check on engineering usually. That's often been something that you do, yeah?
Yeah, just make sure everything hasn't gone to crap while I've been away.
Making sure that, see, that's a completely legitimate thing to do. And in this case, you need to make a reason command check as you check over engineering. Your target number is 15, and you have no focuses which apply. The ship can offer a die.
What's the difficulty?
Your difficulty is 2.
I'll grab the momentum just to make sure. So this will be 4 dice.
Notice I'm not spending threat. I'm hoping. Holy magoo!
Oof. Okay.
No
What did you? What?
As did something.
Yeah, you got one complication out of that 20.
He forgot to
Success
put
number.
in his target number.
Yeah, I forgot to put in my target number, but I'm going to. So that's 2 successes. But I'm going to try and use my determination already.
Oh, wow! I'm glad.
Actually,
hey.
Or should I wait?
I'll leave that up to you to decide.
You're just checking the ship, right?
Yeah, I'm going to leave the complication stand. I mean, unless I want to give him threat.
Yeah, this could just be something interesting.
So, in checking over things down in engineering, everything is running just fine. Everything is running smoothly. The engineering crew is on their game. Because you got only 2 successes actually. When you look at your raw numbers, but you did get the 2 successes and the 1 complication. So with getting what you needed, you look over some of the logs and you see that there is a tech who did not report in today, and you noticed it just a moment ago. You like something was off with how many techs there were in the room. Like you noticed it and you were like, oh, somebody's missing. And then when you check the report, you realize what you were noticing. Oh, somebody's not here. One of your engineering techs never showed up for work today.
That is quite unusual. I will look up his quarters.
His quarters are on deck 6.
Okay, I will just also tap my comm badge. Chief engineer to crewman, whoever.
Come on, we gotta name him. See, I left that one for you.
Crewman Johansson.
Crewman Johansson. I like that. Crewman Johansson. You tap your comm badge, and what do you say?
What's your current status?
No response. You tap your comm badge, say, Crewman Johansson, what's your current status? There is no response.
Computer, locate Crewman Johansson.
Crewman Johansson is not on board the Reliant. Or actually says crewman. We got to give her a first name now. What's a good like Nordic first name?
Helga.
Elga.
I was going to say Astrid.
Astrid.
Astrid. Okay, I like Astrid. That one works. That one works great. The computer responds, crewman Astrid Johansson is not on board the Reliant.
Computer, any records of transporter logs involving crewman Johansson?
There is no record of transporter logs involving crewman Johansson.
Any records at all of crewman Johansson leaving the Reliant?
There is no indication that crewman Johansson has left the Reliant.
Okay, I'm gonna tap my comm badge. Chief Engine. Actually, no. I'm not gonna tap my comm badge. I'm going to go over to her quarters and beep.
Okay. There's no response at the door. You follow Rick. From engineering, which takes up, I'm thinking probably, since we're saying 10 decks on this ship, from engineering, which probably takes up like decks 8 and 9, you get onto the turbo lift and you're up to deck 6. You walk to her, you walk to her quarters and ring, make the little beepy tone, and nothing there's no response at the door.
Okay,
what looks like crew quarters.
I'm going to tap my comm badge. Rick T to Bryce.
This is Bryce. What's going on, Rick?
Could you meet me at crewman Helga Johansson's quarters? She is not responding and is not at her station.
I'll be there in a minute. And from there, we shift to there are people who have scenes that they want to get done. Does anybody have one in mind, which would be a good part of this bottle episode? Like we have shifted from sick bay to engineering. Where do we shift to next?
Well, I'm busy, so I can't do the thing with Tardy at the end.
Not yet. Yeah, I mean, he's not going for a little while, so Graves is just going to be on the bridge, so I'll give priority to anyone else who might want a scene.
Who is on the bridge is the question. Waitley, last we left you had gone to your quarters. Kendra, were you headed? You were on the bridge. Kara, you were on the bridge. And Quentin, you were on the bridge. Bryce actually had gone to security a while ago, and Yannick has been manning the tactical station. Quietly back there doing Genic things.
So let's just go ahead and just shift to Graves, because he'll be coming onto the bridge, and we'll say that he's written his report to Starfleet Command, basically saying we did a lot of things. Send escorts for the ship so we can actually get home to K7. So he'll be wanting to make sure things are okay. So I've got Quentin on the bridge, Genic. Anyone else?
Kara's flying the ship.
Me.
And
Okay.
Kendra is on the bridge also.
All right, so Graves steps out of his quarters and says, all right, people, we did some pretty incredible stuff. I've recommended most of us for promotions, so we can crack some champagne to that later or get court-martialed. I'm honestly not sure which it'll be this time. In the meantime, we need to make sure that the ship is ready to go and ready to fly, and make sure that we get to K7 as safely as possible. So one thing I do want to make sure is that we're clean of Borg tech, and the stuff that we're pulling off people is as secure as possible. So, Quentin, can you check to make sure that, run some scans, just make sure we are completely good to go? And if you've got a little time, I've got a little special project for you.
I can probably come up with some time. I'll have to double check to make sure that all the containment fields didn't have any relays burn out when we're rediverting all the power earlier.
Yeah, safety of the ship comes first, but
Speaking of which,
a little
Captain,
bit later.
I would normally plot us a nice course through some sensor obscuring nebulas, but with the main deflector a bit damaged, I'm going to just try to be as far away from other places as possible. So it's going to be a lot of deep space. So hopefully nothing goes wrong while we're out in the middle of nowhere.
Well, it's also probably going to be a little bit more advisable because sensor obscuring nebulas can also be hiding things as well. We made friends with one Klingon, but others may still want to pursue, let's just say, anything that has a Federation emblem on its hull. So, Quentin, though, what I want you to do is, as we're pulling Borg tech off of people, just make sure that the ship is scanning it and you've got it in your database. Because I want you to try to figure out how the Borg have evolved since the one we discovered on the surface of the planet. And I want that data myself.
Yes, sir. I believe if you look on the ship's network, you'll already find a fairly comprehensive study of at least the neural interfaces.
Okay. I also want power grid signatures as well, and how those have been routed into vital functions.
I don't suppose you took any tricorder scans while you were on the transwarp nexus.
Nope, I was busy shooting.
I'll pull what I can from ship's logs.
All right, very good.
Janik takes his security tricorder off of his belt and he says, "I never turn it off, really." And he hands it to you, Quentin. He steps away from his console. He's like, "I never really turn it off. Probably got something." And he hands it to you.
I'll be in my lab eventually.
In my lab.
Science!
As Kara begins to take the ship into a slightly off the beaten path kind of way to head back toward K7.
And at this point, she's actually looking at the main screen and announces, "And if you look out the port side window, you will see nothing, because this is deep space. And if you look out the starboard side window, you will see nothing, because this is deep space."
If you look out the starboard side window and you change the view screen, you will see, and you're so proud, you're like nothing, and everyone else sees a Klingon bird of prey decloaking next to you.
And Graves, this does not.
This window, you will see nothing. And a message comes from that Klingon ship. You're being hailed. And
on screen.
On screen, the big second officer of that ship, of Karn's ship, says, "The captain has seen fit that while the other members of our squadron make their way back to Kronos for repair, that we are to accompany you into Federation space under the flag of..." He seems to falter on the word a couple of times. Not like he doesn't know it, but he doesn't want to say it. And he goes, "Under the flag of diplomacy."
I would call it finding more honorable battles against bigger foes. As we both saw, there was more glory in fighting the Borg. And this may lead to similar engagements in future. So, on that note, we won't ask anything of you. You'll simply accompany us, and we will
There's too much
do what needs to be done.
Federation. I must choose which member of this crew is forced to come and live among you. And the channel cuts out.
Graves is just sort of smiling at that point. It's like, this is going to be fun.
That guy right there, he's hit his reason, and you can tell he is Kendra. You can tell by what he's being told to do that he has your position on that Klingon ship. He is being tasked with deciding which member of their crew is coming to your crew in trade for Ensign John Tardigrade.
Kara mutters slightly to herself, "Well, so much for asking about that wounded bird of prey. I hope they got out okay."
Yeah, most likely.
Is very visibly unhappy about this crew exchange.
Oh, yeah, because he's our little buddy. But Graves is sort of silently, he's kind of silently hoping, almost hoping that we get the second officer. Just because he's like, that would be interesting. It's just sort of that part of him. He's so tired at this point that he's almost got that little bit of I kind of want to see the universe burn at this point. Just because he's just he's kind of just
You'll see
on that
what-
little
you'll-
like.
I figured them out. You guys will figure it out. It'll be figured out at K7. Your message
Okay.
of like what you found there, and like, hey, I made a deal with this Klingon. He's going to be with us. Hopefully, we can just have one quick diplomatic moment, and then they go away, right?
Well,
so
yeah. So let's see. So I've done that. I do want to give an task to Kendra.
many things to do.
Yes.
So I want to make sure that all our personnel are secure, and I also want to make sure that the people that we've brought on board from the Texas have appropriate accommodations and are generally doing okay. Because I mean, Borg. So yeah, if you could see to that, basically make sure all our people are okay, and that the new member or the officers on board have what they need.
I will take a stroll down to the sick bay.
Oh dear God!
And Kendra walks off of the bridge. And as Kendra walks off, as we follow Kendra down the turbo lift, boom, 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 down to the 4th level of the ship.
May I say that turbo lift sounds like it needs some maintenance.
It's just like, it's a normal turbo lift. You can just, in my mind, I'm just like, boom, boom. And it goes down 4 levels. You step off, and as Kendra walks toward the sick bay, the camera curves and follows down the hallway the opposite direction to Chaplain Waitley's room. And Chaplain, you just moments ago, when you reached, not moments ago, but just within the space of 7 breaths kind of thing. You were trying to reach out and see if you could still feel what the Borg were trying to say in some way, and what you got was Dr. 3 hyper focused on the work that she suddenly has to do. That she honestly wasn't expecting to have to do this, and that she believes that the that modifications made to your ship were not made with rehabilitating long-term assimilated Borg, liberating them. And she knows that, at least in her mind, she knows that they are going to require more care than the Reliant. And when you reach out and she feels you ping, and felt you ping in her mind, she responds with, "We are Borg." And that was something that happened to you not very long ago, within the last few minutes. What does Waitley do following that?
Waitley, that's a very good question. Very good question. Waitley shuts down. He stops reaching out. He just kind of stares off into nothing. He's just kind of sitting there meditating, contemplating his entire situation he's found himself in. In which case, for those who don't know, last episode, Waitley tried to essentially assimilate some Borg psychically. It did not go well. And he wound up getting psychically assimilated by the Borg instead. And he's not sure what to do with this situation he's in.
What it was, because it lasted such a brief time, what it was, and I say this based on everything I know about your character, background stuff, that kind of thing. It was like hearing 1,000 minds at once. No, more than that. At first you think to yourself as you're staring out in space that the moment, because it really was just a moment. It was, you were taken out of there fast, and Dr. 3 was right there on the transporter platform. So it was really only a moment, but when you first think it was 1,000 minds, no, it was countless minds, all thinking the same thought with absolute clarity. A thought that when you felt it, it was just like a thought with such power that this hive mind can all focus on one thing and with all of them focusing on one thing, you felt the moment of all those minds not being something that you have to actively try to ignore because they were all thinking the same thing. And for the moment that your brain was assimilated, you weren't hearing what you hear now in your brain. Stuff that you ignore, that you just like kind of let like just fly through your gray matter and just let go, because you hear everybody's thoughts or feelings at the very least all of the time. And when the Borg assimilated you, that was no longer happening for that brief moment.
Which was probably heaven for Lee. Like that was probably even better than when he was on Risa.
Probably yes. I would say so. Because I'm not 100%. I think Betazoids are born with their telepathic gifts.
Yes.
Am I correct?
It's essentially it's from my reading, it's kind of like what color hair you have, or it's very much a genetic thing. And one of the things that makes Whately so interesting with how powerful a telepathy is that male Betazoids typically tend to be weaker in power than women. Loxana is considered one of the most powerful telepaths that Beta Z ever produced, though certainly not the most. And so he's already demonstrated that he is capable of at least that degree. And he has not tapped his full potential yet, I don't believe.
So it's kind of a haunting scene almost as the camera takes us into Whately's quarters and we just see him staring out into space. We from there slip back down to let's see. From there we slip back down to sickbay because because Whately was connected for that brief moment with Dr. 3 as she began to set up this surgery, getting back into sickbay, as she was just coming from the transporter room that is right down the hallway. The surgery is all set up and ready to go, but you can only work on one of them at a time. And you're going to want to have 2 doctors undisturbed working on the first patient. So you're going to want either you and Ged, or you and Dr. 3, or you and a doctor who doesn't have a name yet that came over from the USS Texas. Those are your choices for which person works with you. You have 3 choices, but you need 2 people working on one of these Borg just to get its relays shut down and really get a look at what you're dealing with. So, Dr. O'Connor, Dr. Ged looks over and he goes, "Doc,
yes,
Which one? We got this bed ready to go. Which one?
Let's start with the Romulan.
Okay." And Dr. 3 says that is the one that has been assimilated quite the longest. And the attendants, the medical attendants, the nurses roll basically move the Romulan over to the bed that's been set up specifically for this, and they set him down. And the other, so Ged and Dr. 3 look at you, wondering which one needs to go out and start helping other people, because the other 2 are all 3 of these, the Ibby, the Romulan, and the human, they are all in induced coma now. So you can work without fear of them waking up and broadcasting their location and that kind of thing. So who's staying and who's going out kind of thing. They're just looking at you. Ged is shifting on his feet. Dr. 3 is stone-faced and simply waiting with her hands at her side.
Ged, I'm going to want you to go out there and help everyone else.
Yeah, because I got the best guy. I got the best bedside manner in all of the sick bay. He walks out and he goes, "Hey, you jerks!" And the door slides shut behind him. And
into the
goes,
sick
"Hey,
bay
you
just then.
jerks that aren't even from the Reliant. Let's get a look at you." And you walk in with this Ellerite, who I believe I described him with kind of like a shorter, well-cropped beard rather than like a long, crazy beard. Didn't I a long time ago? But yeah, he walks up and he goes, "Okay, you jerks who ain't even from the Reliant." And you walk in, Kendra, as he says, "Let's see what we can do to help you, Commander." And the operating room, Dr. O'Connor, you're looking at this. You are looking at this Romulan that is lying on the table. It is more machine than flesh. You can first date it. You can first, when I say date it, you can based on based on a sample of the flesh, and also you could essentially with your equipment carbon date the you could carbon date the metal part, some part of the metal of this creature. And Dr. 3 looks over to you and says, "Shall we begin?"
Let us begin.
So, you are going to begin surgery on a Borg that is long. It was a very long time assimilated. Very, very long time. The first roll that you need to make is a reason and medicine check, which is your 15 is your number, and the critical range is 4. 15 is your target. I am not going to add any threat to this roll, so you can simply 15 target number, 4 is your critical.
All right, and 4 dice again because I got Dr. 3 helping me and the ship.
Yep.
All right.
Ooh, I love these complications tonight. A brilliant thing. I love it. You get 3 successes, though. I mean, so you build momentum.
How much we had?
Now you have 1.
Wait, didn't we got some momentum earlier? Because
We had one earlier.
I used it, so we got one.
Oh, I
yeah.
missed that. Crap.
So begin the process of disconnecting the neural link. You're trying to remove it, and you run into the first major complication of a Borg that has been a Borg for this long. The neural link is so once you get your medical tools that go beyond the description of our possibility. Once you get the side of its head open and get your medical tools and get your scanner looking right inside of this, this creature's like base of where it's like spine meets like the neck and everything, you get this indication that you cannot remove this uplink device because there are so many connections in this uplink device that lead to so many places in unknown places in his body. It connects to a neural strand here. It connects to a piece of gray matter there. It connects it connects to bone fragments in 3 places. And it's like you can't take that out without shutting things down or doing something bad probably to whatever it's connected to. The best you can do is now you can make that same roll again, but the ship cannot help you because this is the part where this is dependent solely on the skill of the doctors that are it's solely on the skill of the doctors that are doing the operation right now. So it is the same roll, which is a 15 for you and a 4 is your critical range, but I am going to drop 2 points of threat at you, and if That means if you roll 18, 19, or 20, you get a complication.
All right, and this is 3 dice because I got Dr. 3 with me.
Hey, there you go. Bam! Bam, bam, bam. You build a momentum. You build a momentum, and because you have Dr. 3 working with you, hey, you picked the better of the two doctors. I don't blame you. She indicates that you can shut it down, but you're going to have to continually monitor it during the entire surgery, as the nanites in his body will try to turn it back on. And so with her telling you that, you are able to switch off the essentially the signal device that would lead other Borg here. Its uplink to the collective has been severed. And you start to look at some of the other modifications been done to this poor Romulan. Almost the entire right side of his face has been replaced by a metal plate, and the flesh underneath it has gone so long necrotized that the plate, he kind of almost looks like if the Phantom of the Opera had a steel plate face mask that instead of an eye hole had a Borg shiny eye unit on it. And once again, when you start looking at it, you just don't have the resources to. If you get started really trying to liberate this individual, this surgery could take you more than a day.
Right now, I just want to render that inoperable.
You've done that.
Okay.
You render it inoperable. Dr. 3 smiles. And
I raised an eyebrow with that.
She smiles. It's only the corners of her mouth as the thing gets turned off, and the information comes up on the screen next to her that you would look for, and she says, "This Borg was liberated in the 24th century, in the mid 24th century, Doctor."
Could you say that again? It cut out for me.
She says, "This Borg was liberated in the mid 24th century, Doctor."
Do you mean liberated or assimilated?
This Borg was assimilated in the late or in the mid 24th century, Doctor. We're able to, thanks to the metallurgical analysis, I can narrow it down to the year 2364.
2360. My God.
As I said, these three have been Borg a while. Once the biggest issue that we will run into here, Doctor, is that when they awaken, they will not remember themselves.
Well, they've been assimilated 45 years, I would think so.
Even if they've only been assimilated 4 months, 5 months. Borg that have been assimilated 2 weeks lose all sense of self. By the time a month has passed, there is very little left of what once was human inside of the mind to reach and rebuild.
Well, he doesn't look very human to me.
No, he doesn't.
More Romulan than human.
More Borg than Romulan.
That's true.
I'm going to suggest we make a report for command at K7 to dispatch potentially escort ships to get these three at the very least to the Daystrom Institute. They do have the facilities there. that we do not here.
Well, let's get through the other ones at least. Let's see how better they fare.
Well, now that the bed essentially is set up, she presses the buttons, and the setup around the bed that provides the tools that you need specifically to work on Borg hardware. It's on like a couple of frames that just float from the bed that you were just working on. They float over to the other bed, and now you have the tools. Which one do you send it to, the Ibby or the human?
I'm very wary of that cube, so I'm going for the Ibby next.
Okay, and then we go out into the sick bay, and Ged just finished saying, "All right, you jerks that aren't even from the Reliant, let's see what I can do to help you." And some of the people that are from the Reliant are all, that's Dr. Ged. They're like, hey, he's not friendly, but he's a really good doctor. And
That's friendly for a teller, right?
you, Kendra, here, let's see what I can do to help you. And he goes walking over to the first bed that has a Starfleet engineering officer that has been cleared of all Borg tech except for something that has molded into the bone of his arm. And you see Dr. Ged, like it just looks like a 7 of 9's hand thing, but halfway up his arm. And it's gone through skin and is connected to bone. And you just see Ged walk over and call something up on a computer and say, "Commander, welcome to sick bay. We're a little busy at the moment. What can I do for you?"
Oh, I'm here to see how everyone's faring at the moment and how morale's doing in here. Not exactly your area of expertise, I know.
Morale, not yeah, you're right. Not exactly my area of expertise. I can say that I've already released 3 of the Texas crew to back among their own people. Their implants were very easy to remove, and well, not very easy. I mean, have you ever tried to do medical work, Commander? It's not very easy. And he says, but there's 3 of them that were already ready to go, so it's just these 8 that I still have left. Oh, and well, the 3 other Borg that the docs have in the other room.
Would it be helpful to you if I had someone from hospitality come down to see to the, shall we say, areas outside of your expertise?
That would be great, Commander. Because honestly, these other 8 jerks taking up my beds. And he looks over his left shoulder and looks at like 3 of them that are on the beds. And for the most part, the people that are in here, that you can see immediately, the remaining 8 people, the remaining 8 people that were on the Texas that are still in, kind of half destroyed Starfleet uniforms. In some cases, they've been cut off of them and whatnot. They all appear to be recovering pretty well. There are a couple that are still looking at these implants that they have, and Ged is over by the bed of one of those. But he looks over his shoulder and he's like, "You jerks, you're almost ready to go home. Almost. Yeah, they're almost ready to get out of here. So, if the hospitality people come down, we can get them, set up in the temporary quarters like everybody else, right?"
Sounds like a plan.
Man, we're going to have to give you some painkillers. He looks over at the guy on the bed. Man, we are going to have to give him painkillers. And you get the feeling that Dr. Ged doesn't want to talk anymore, but, he's there if you want to. He wants to get to work on this guy.
I tap my comm badge. Can I have a couple people from hospitality come down to the sick bay to see to the crew of the Texas? And also, she taps her comm badge again. Kendra to Waitley.
Ooh. I like
It's,
that. Waitley, you get a call.
He's obviously in the middle of his little reverie there, but after a few seconds, he taps his comm badge and says, "Waitley here. What do you need?"
Are you feeling up to a little work, or do you need some time off?
He clears his throat and says, I will be there shortly."
Very good.
And he proceeds to get off of his ass and looks in the mirror and straightens everything up, adjusts his pip, and proceeds to the sickbay.
Kendra waits in the sick bay for Waitley.
Okay. It only takes a couple of minutes for him to get there. His offices and the holodeck are both on this deck as well. So, actually, no, the holodeck wouldn't be on this deck, but his offices would.
We need an actual what do they call them? The actual, like, the deck map of the Reliant that shows where it is. We need somebody to do, or make it a project where we all work on it or something. I think that'd be cool.
Well, this one we're kind of establishing where a few things are, even if they're probably not right. You know.
We could do it as Lieutenant Tardigrade's crayon doodle map of the Reliant.
Yes.
It only needs to be consistent.
I don't know if it would be consistent.
Photoshop can do a lot of things.
You might just, well, like he starts like drawing castles and dragons on some parts of the ship.
So yes, it only takes a few minutes, and you're walking into the sick bay. Waitley, Kendra is there, and Dr. Ged is injecting the patient at the table that he is working on with some sort of medicine. He's got a hypo spray, and the guy is like, a lot of painkiller, and Ged goes, a lot of painkiller, and puts the hypo spray to his neck. And at about the same time, 3 people from the operations crew are walking in to the sick bay, and Kendra, you just see Ged shake his head like, I just got rid of, like, you can tell that he wants to be like, Commander, I just got rid of like 3 people. What's going on? But he just goes right back to his work and doesn't say anything. So the couple of operations hospitality crew step in, and Chaplain Waitley is just like a minute before them. So you can continue in the sickbay for a moment.
Waitley.
Kendra
gestures for him to come over.
He looks where she is, and he approaches, and he stands at attention, says, "Yes, sir."
Kendra uncharacteristically reaches out a hand and puts it on his shoulder. Are you really okay?
He doesn't flinch or start or anything, but he is very obviously uncomfortable with the cool contact. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't like give a reaction. You very much pick that vibe up from his body language. He doesn't shrink away or anything. He just nods and says, "Yes, sir, I am."
And Kendra, the second she senses that he's like internally tensing, pulls her hand away, but continues looking at him very intently.
He just says, "Yes, sir, I am ready for duty."
All right. I know for me, sometimes when something happens, the best thing I can do is help others, and I'm hoping maybe it'll be the same for you. I know that you got a little bit of a taste of what the people on the Texas just went through, and I'm hoping you might be able to help them out.
He nods, very, very Waitley style nod, and says, "Who is in dire need of assistance?"
At this point, I'm not sure if you can kind of make your rounds around the sick bay and use your professional skills and your personal skills to kind of get a feel for people who need your help.
He nods and says, "As you wish." And as soon as he says that, he opens his mind up and tries to kind of gauge everyone around him, what they're feeling. He's basically going to do some psychotropic triage.
Okay, there's a guy on painkillers who is, I don't know, he's not paying attention to what the doctor is doing, because even though he's on painkillers, he knows that what the doctor is doing is probably really really painful and probably looks really painful. And when you look over at that table, you're like, oh my goodness, he's tearing that thing out of his arm. It's the hard work of tearing out hardware that had bonded to his bone, kind of. And so yeah, it looks like it would be painful, is what's happening. And the rest of the people, there are a couple that are still a little worried because they have like a little Borg tech left on them. One guy is worried he's not going to see out of his right eye again. But for the most part, the people from the Texas in this room feel like they are being treated by a very competent medical staff. They're happy to let themselves be patients for the moment until they can get back to, patients and then, guests on board this ship. They're totally okay for that. That's what you pick up from the people in the sick bay.
All right. He's just gonna kind of make his rounds through the sick bay and kind of, for those who are conscious, just give them contrived platitudes, so to speak. The basic standard. There's someone here to speak with if you need, and that whole shtick. You're not alone, and if you need to talk, there's someone here.
Everybody is it actually, they are they're thankful to hear it. And I need you to make a what kind of a check? What kind of a check makes the most sense here? It's something medicine. It's
Presence
insight
medicine?
presence medicine, or insight medicine. Which do you think? Are you trying more to reassure them, or are you trying more to know what state they're in?
Well, his initial, telepathic sweep was to know what state they're in. This is very much reassuring. Like I
Okay,
said,
so
contrived platitude.
So then this is presence and medicine. Your target number is 14. Psychology applies, and so your crit range is 4. Not going to add any threat to this roll. So
2 successes.
nice for you. 2 successes, which is what you needed. You can tell that you being here in engineering and doing that has made them feel better. You can also tell that both Dr. O'Connor, now Dr. 3, you don't really get what you would exactly call emotion from. She is mentally, she is emotive. Something in the way the first surgery happened made her pleased. The like something in it, it pleased her. In many ways, that could be you could interpret it as happiness, but it's not really expressing as happiness in her mind. I don't know how better to explain it than that. Dr. O'Connor, I imagine, is very focused on his work. And at work right now is pulling an implant or turning off an implant that is inside of a Borgified individual. That's what you pick up from the two of them. And after that, come back to the quote unquote plot. As I said this earlier, that there is a plot. It's not all just going to be random scenes, but Rick Bryce comes walking down the hallway. He's got a hand phaser, attached at his hip, and he's got a security tricorder. And he goes, "Still nothing."
No response. Checked the the sensors. There was no record of her leaving. No transporter beam. She's reporting that it's not on board. That she's not on board not on board the Reliant. So got a bit of a mystery here.
Let me check at least. Computer. He says, "Computer, identify location of crewman Johansson." Crewman Astrid Johansson is not on board the Reliant. He looks he looks like this is what he's expecting. Like he's expecting confirmation of what you just said. And then he says, computer, are there any records of crewman Johansson leaving the Reliant via any, by any means? There are no records of crewman Johansson leaving the Reliant by any means. And he says, security override, crewman Johansson's quarters, deck 6, hallway 3, and he gives another room code, and the door slides open, and you see a room that looks like it is shared by 2 people, a little bit bigger than a college dorm room, and you're guessing this is for junior officers. Sometimes they have to bunk together, it looks like a room where someone that spends time in the room likes music. They have a synth tunes device. Essentially, they have like some modern version of a radio on their side of the room, and on the other side of the room, the person on the other side of the room looks like they collect knives. Because they've got like a basically like a gun rack for knives up above a desk that they have on their side of the room, and there are 4 different knives in it, and they are labeled. 3 of them look very similar in design. They are labeled with 3 different human cultures. The 4th one is very different in design, and it is labeled with a Vulcan monastery culture. Other than that, it really looks like a normal room to you. And Bryce moves his security tricorder around and says, "This there is. I'm not showing anything in here out of place." Rick, when did this crew member go missing, and where did they go missing?
I do not know when. Computer, what was the last known location for crewman Johansson?
Crewman Johansson was last in Turbo Lift 3.
She had a...
Turbo Lift 3, by the way, is the lift that would lead from this deck to engineering.
She had a shift. That's it. That's what.
It reported last location of, or not even reported, last location of crewman Johansson is Turbo Lift 3 at these, and gives you a specific timestamp, and that would have been like a couple of minutes before she should have been walking into engineering.
Computer, any other crewmen that are unaccounted for?
Working. There are 2 crewmen unaccounted for. Crewman Johansson, engineering department. Crewman Grady, security department. Neither are on board Reliant.
Does crewman Grady share crewman Johansson's quarters?
Negative.
Well, I guess we should check out the turbo lift.
Yes, we should. Yeah, he claps you on the shoulder lightly enough that don't feel that like he's not like trying to show off his android strength or anything. So he kind of puts a hand on your shoulder and he goes, "And here I thought that I was going to get to go a whole tour on this ship without a good mystery." And you reach the turbo lift and step onto the turbo lift. Engineering. Turbo lift shoots down deck 7, deck 8, deck 9, and opens.
This time I want to have my tricorder out scanning just for any
May,
anomalies.
I'm so glad that you did that, because now you get to make the most wonderful of all rolls. Scanning rolls. Scanny rolls. In this case, you should make a reason, or would it be insight, because it's happening in the moment?
It depends. Insight is generally more behavioral kind of things, whereas
Okay, it'll be reason. It'll be reason and engineering. Your target number is 16. Or athletics, transporter, survival. None of your focuses apply, but I am going to spend. Now I'm not going to spend a point of threat. So it is target number whatever 16 with their focuses applying.
How many momentum do we have?
2.
I reckon I'll use one if that's all right with everyone.
All right with me. You can use a momentum. There you go.
Okay.
I have no
Die. 3 successes and you earn the momentum back. It took precisely 0.75 seconds to go from deck 6 to deck 7. It took 0.78 seconds to go from deck 7 to deck 8. It took 0.75 seconds. No, excuse me. 0.75, then 1 full second, then 0.75 again. So you went from deck 6 to 7 in 0.7 seconds, basic. You went from deck 7 to 8 in about a full second. Now, those times, like that's a minuscule amount of difference. Pointing that out, but you got 3 successes and you had your tricorder out and you were like, I want to know what's going on here, kind of thing. And what's going on in the turbo lift is that you went from deck 6 to deck 7, 0.7 seconds, full second, and from deck 7 to 8 and 8 to 9, it's essentially one of those decks, and that is between deck 7 and 8. Takes 0.3 seconds longer to transverse.
Okay, knowing the blueprints as I do, would I expect there to be that difference, or would that be that be unexpected?
That is unexpected.
Getting a 0.3 second delay between moving from decks to decks, but I mean it's the same distance. It shouldn't take any longer.
And you have an invisible deck.
Can I do a bit of maths to say if there is an invisible deck? Like what amount of distance?
It looks. When Bryce says that, it sounds like he was just guessing. He's like, so I have an invisible deck? And if you try to do the quick math to figure it out, you can go reason engineering with a 16 and see if you make it.
I'll use a third dice as well. 3 successes.
3 successes, you gain back the momentum that you just used for the third die. And doing the math, there is enough room for a half a deck there.
I would by the extra time, it's about half a deck worth of distance that is unaccounted for.
And there's nothing on the blueprints. That's just. And as far as you know, Rick, there's nothing on the blueprints. That is just some of the open space that exists outside of turbo lifts. Maybe Tardy didn't miss this, and maybe Tardy didn't, even think of it as important to tell anybody, because everybody probably knew about it. After all, he saw 2 Starfleet officers go down there once in a while.
Uh-oh.
At least that's how I think he would have seen it. And nothing bad ever happened there. What was there to tell?
Nope.
Exactly, right?
It's a little space. His space.
It's like it seems like it's got about enough space for half a deck. And from there, we switch back up to the bridge where Quentin is. Quentin is moved to the science lab. So we go into the science lab where Quentin is. You can very easily set up a relay down to the medical lab. They've already removed a great deal of Borg tech that they can move to the science lab very easily for hollow imaging and all kinds of scans. So that is not going to be hard to set up. You have plenty of people who not plenty, you don't have like a 70 person science department or anything, but you've got a number of people in the science department who are able to do that. So you included, obvious. And was there the report that you wanted to send? You could send to the people that it should be sent to. And what other things are there that Quentin wants to look into while he is in his lab?
Okay, well, we need to run a level 3 diagnostic on the internal sensors to make sure that they are reporting correctly. Then I need to verify that the containment fields.
Start with the level 3 diagnostic on internal sensors. Let's just start at the start and go from there. It is 11 and 4. Actually, yeah, it's 11 and 4. Your total is 15. You do have diligence, strangely, which I think will apply in this situation. You are diligent about your work. So you have a 15. You crit on a 4 or less. I am not adding any threat to this roll. You guys have 2 momentum currently if you want to grab a die from there. Holy,
We're good.
holy
Science!
moly. So for all of you
Science!
listening, the roll cast Modine just made for Quentin and his diligent self. Wow, you gained 3 momentum. He got 5 successes due to
The
crit.
ship for 1 and
Due to crits on, but still you critted twice on that roll. That's
So hold on. Just because I'm keeping track of momentum on the thing, we went from 2 to 1 to 4, correct?
Went from 2. You went from 2 to 1. Baz brought that 1 back, and then Quentin just gained 3. You guys are currently at 5, 1 off of max. Guys currently have 5 momentum. Feel free to buy some dice when you need them. Quentin, you all the internal sensors, everything seems to be working correctly, and all the ones that you specifically realigned to make sure that there's no Borg nanites touching any part of your beautiful, wonderful ship. All of those, everything seems to be working fine. Everything is working perfectly, except there's an entire file structure that seems to be hiding something in deep in the imaging sensor array data packets. Do you want to look at it? Of course you do. That's why you rolled 5 successes. And so when you look at it and follow it in, there is a specific area of this ship between decks 7 and 8 that is not a full deck, but that is placed between deck 7 and 8 next to turbo lifts. It's just, as far as every blueprint shows you, that's just open space next to turbo lifts. But any internal sensors focused on that area are being made to report that. Now here's the kicker. That is in the base core programming of the Reliant. That is not something that someone added in later. Someone put that on the Reliant. And in fact, if you weren't being so diligent this afternoon, you wouldn't have seen it. It's meant to be hidden, and you just found it. What do you do?
I need a sec because I'm trying to create a random character real quick to assign to something.
Here, I need a name quickly.
Dun, da-da.
Okay, what are you going to assign somebody to do?
All right, I need Ensign Torak, a Benzite, to take over the diagnostic for the containment fields on the cargo deck and medical bay. I'm about to go sleuthing.
Understood, sir. I'll make sure we get everything we need.
And I tap my comm badge.
Hey, who do you call? Ghostbusters! Wait, no, sorry.
No.
Wrong game.
We haven't gotten to that yet. We won't even touch specters for what, another 10 levels?
Right?
But anyways, Quentin to Rick Tier.
Rick, you were in the hallway with Bryce, having just ridden down the turbo lift, and you are now on the engineering deck. You're not in engineering when you get the call.
Ricky,
Can you meet me near deck 7? I've found something peculiar.
I think we found it too. I'm currently on the engineering deck with Bryce, and we're just about to explore a demi-level deck within the Reliant. So,
Which is apparently reflecting internal sensor data and masking itself.
well, your presence will be welcome. We're currently here. Do you want to meet us at engineering deck Turbolift 3?
I will meet you there in a second.
Okay, as you wait the moment for Quentin to come, down the turbo lift, Bryce taps his comm badge and he says, "I doesn't just tap his comm badge. He just goes, computer, check again for crewmen's Johansson and Grady, please." Crewman Benjamin Grady is in his quarters. Crewman Astrid Johansson is not on board the Reliant. He looks over at you, Rick. Turbo lift slides open. You see Rick and Bryce exchanging a look, and they both look at you, Quentin. And we're about 5 minutes early for our hour-and-a-half break, and that's where we're going to take a break as the turbo lift opens, and Quentin sees Rick and Bryce turn to look at him. So we come back from commercial. Up on the bridge, and Jennick says, Captain, I'm receiving communication from Starfleet Command. We are to rendezvous with the USS. Goodness, I had thought of a name and now I've forgotten it. Let's see. Captain, Janek says, Captain, I'm receiving orders from Starfleet Command. We're to rendezvous with the USS Ticonderoga, and this part of the message is your eyes only, and he sends it right to your terminal. It's not been opened, obviously. He says Ticonderoga will be taking on board any passengers for relief back to Earth space dock. We should be able to be in their position in just a couple of hours. Also, Command has approved whatever transfer you asked for, sir. And wish to be informed when Captain Karn has sent his representative.
Are they asking for when we're sending our representative?
Oh.
All right. Yeah, I'll play it by ear then. Good to know.
The part that is for your eyes only is that and obviously I'm sure people can role play not knowing this. As you just look at it on your console, it's just an addendum to the message that indicates that based on your report that Starfleet will, based on your report in the rescue of the Starfleet crew members and the destruction, the scuttling of the Texas, based on your actions in Karat, your recommendation for for the Klingons being ceded control of the Karat sector is being granted. There's not even a dissenting opinion on the orders.
Wow.
It is being granted by the Starfleet, basically the Starfleet Military Command Council, which involves, the Makos, Starfleet Command, Admiral Quinn. A couple of admirals had to sign off on this, and none of them dissented. That's the part that only comes to your eyes, is that that Federation forces will be moving out of the Karat sector, and you are basically being given the happy task of letting Karn know.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So Graves actually feels pretty good about that. So he's kind of feeling like I did something good. So
We didn't
and
mess that up.
I'm not getting court-martialed for giving away a star system. So
Good.
Graves has to, he has to find some way of informing Karn without it seeming like it was going to be like he didn't have authority in the first place. Like there was some question that he wouldn't be able to give it. So he has to basically let him know, but basically not is it like I finally heard from my superiors, but yeah, it's like it's now yours. So he taps his communicator and says, Graves to Ensign Tardigrade.
And to have a conversation with Tardigrade. He is still on board the ship. He is packing at this moment, whatever packing consists of to him.
It's packing like miscellaneous, like civilian uniform type stuff. Nothing that's like Starfleet branded, but basically just like black jammies, basically.
Awesome.
And he's packing, and then he taps his green comm badge and says,
Lieutenant Tardigrade here.
Tardy, I want you to come up with some special kind of commemoration for our transfer to the Karat system to the Klingon Defense Force and the care of Grandpa Karn.
Okie dokie, I do that. I can make drawing. It will be cool. And it will have spaceships and explosion, and yeah, okay, I can do it.
And Lieutenant Tardigrade is just sort of like humming a little, like kind of humming a little nervously, and kind of said,
"It's like, well, I get to say goodbye to crew."
And Graves kind of makes a mental note, like, yeah, we need to do that. So he says, like, yeah, people are pretty busy right now, but before you go, we'll make sure you're able to say goodbye. But yeah, just right now, I want you to be working on your little commemoration to Karn and anything else you need to take care of before you go.
Okie dokie, I do that, and thank you, Marcus.
And Graves closes the comm channel there.
Klingon at Op says, Captain, he says, Captain, I have coordinates for the Ticonderoga rendezvous in 1 hour and 20 minutes.
Very good.
Goes back to his station. Does anyone want to make an insight? Does anyone want to make an insight command check? That is on the bridge right now. That would be Kendra, Marcus, and Kara.
I believe
Checking my stats.
This would be after you left, correct?
Okay, so
are you going back to the bridge after sickbay? Is the question.
yes.
Okay, then you need to roll insight and command. So Kara's checking her stats. I'll find Elenis's stats here. Elenis has a 10 insight and a 4 command, so that's a 15 for you. And it's kind of just like it's an offhanded perception check, essentially. If anyone wants to attempt to make it.
Despite what the results say, I did not make it. I did the formula wrong, so I thought my crit range was 20, but I have no successes.
I see. No successes. That's a pity. Yeah. Ooh, Kendra got 2 successes. Kendra, you know that the Klingon understands Ensign Tardigrade, but does not understand the relationship between the captain and lieutenant or an ensign tardigrade. And when he makes his report, he kind of turns right back to his station. Like, he doesn't want to involve him, so he just makes his report, turns back to his station. You can tell that it's not something that makes him uncomfortable, it's something that makes him confused. Because he understands the captain, and you can tell that comes from guys. Here is what it comes from. If you want to spend a momentum point, you guys have 5. You can gain a little bit more information because he did graduate with you. You might know him a little bit from the academy. You want to spend an not an inspiration, you want to spend a
Momentum.
Thank you, Baz. Do you want to spend a momentum and gain a little bit more information because you knew him at the academy?
That'll be you, Kendra. You've
I
got
think
plenty of
you
it.
guys have 5. You guys have plenty of it.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, doesn't have a name yet, but you know that he thinks of people by Vulcans knew how to say hello in history. Humans did not, and it led to war. Andorians didn't know how to say hello, but yet, so basically, he learned about the Federation races when he learned about the history of the Federation races from the viewpoint of the Federation when he came to the Academy. He didn't learn, and most of you didn't, probably excepting Marcus and Kara, didn't learn anything about tardigrade biology. Actually, Quentin might have in scientific studies, but not just biology, but didn't learn anything about like what it is to be a tardigrade. And so he's confused by Ensign Tardigrade because he doesn't understand him. That is the Klingon. Janik is happily at his station. You can tell that he's got long range scans going if they're needed. And Kara, what are you doing at your station?
For the moment, Kara is mostly just flying the ship.
Okay. And from there, we're going to cut down to Act 9 as Marcus and or not Marcus, as Quentin and Quentin and Rick and Bryce are now right outside the turbo lift and on deck 9. And Bryce says, "So we do have an invisible deck." I really was just joking, Rick.
Well, that's... I did not expect it myself, but that is where the evidence obviously has led us to.
He says, Quentin, or do you prefer Lieutenant Reynolds?
So, I am going to recommend that we probably should notify somebody else before we go in there. I'm just thinking that this area is masking itself, so therefore it may also be masking anything inside of it, such as comms.
What else could it mask? If there are no internal sensors pointed toward it, what could it possibly mask? To certainly, I could find the data, but you might already know.
I'm gonna tap my comm badge and say, Rick here to, is it Lieutenant Commander? No, it'll be Lieutenant Junior Grade, sorry.
But just be Lieutenant, mostly when
Kendra.
people are...
Yes.
Sorry, Kendra. That's, yeah, did I say Kakara or Kendra? I can't remember now.
Kendra, you got it.
Okay, good. We have, myself, your husband, and Bryce have located an area of the deck of the ship between decks 7 and 8 that seem to not exist on any official records. We are going to move to explore, but sensors are showing that this area does not exist. So just informing you that if something happens and you don't hear from us, say within half an hour, you know that something has happened.
Bryce says, I can get some of my guys down here, Commander. Right now, we have no idea what's inside, but I am armed.
More people than you need then.
Understood, Commander. And he steps like a good step away from you, Rick, and taps his comm badge and speaks lightly, and you hear him go, Bryce to security. Bryce's rank is you now can know. You look at the pips on his uniform, and Bryce is a full lieutenant, but his second pip, while not, it doesn't look you know how like the lieutenant commander pips look like they're like the one looks not filled in, or the one with lieutenant junior grade looks not filled in. His pips both look filled in, but the second one has a different stripe around it, which it's just a thin silver stripe around the outside that's a little bit brighter than the rest of the pip. And you know that what it means is that he is a provisional lieutenant. He is operating at the rank of lieutenant, but is really only there provisionally, and that's probably because of the Klingon War.
So field promotion.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So while we're waiting for security, I'm going to get Quentin out of the turbo lift and try to gain access to our little demi deck.
Okay, you step into the turbo lift and very easily can remove the top plate. You are the chief engineer of this. I'm
going to lock the turbo lift down so it doesn't suddenly start moving.
Okay. You do. You move the turbo lift down and you use an override to get the doors open, and you step or you look out and step out into the turbo lift shaft. And I'm not of the opinion that turbo lift shafts look much like those. There are like in which movie was it where the spaces were just gigantic and open? And I'm not of that opinion, but I am of the opinion that around the turbo lift shafts, you can look out and see some of the space between that exists in the ship. And you need to make a perception check. Is the only way to say it.
All right. So insight, what kind of disciplines? Engineering, security.
I'm going to say so. It's insight, and I'm going to say, oh, there's Rick's sheet. I'm going to say it's engineering because you know the Reliant. So insight and engineering brings you to a 12. I'm going to let a focus apply, and I will only tell you after if it if you succeed. I will tell you what focus applied. Your target number is 12. Your critical range is 5. I am going to add 4 points of threat. 16 or above is a complication. A horrible, terrible complication.
I'm going to get a dice with momentum since we've got plenty of that.
You guys really do have a bunch of it.
Okay, so that's 3 successes.
Yes. So you look out and you can see that the turbo lift shaft is just fine. And you look up and you can see the indicators for where the floors are above you. But unlike, the original series Enterprise where Spock could like rocket boot them up through like a tunnel, what you see is some open space that this kind of more framework that the turbo lifts run on exists in. It's just this empty space between decks. And you look up, and have you ever seen that stuff? Gosh, what do they call it? Like the blackest black that's ever been black. You can get like paint or something that's like this color. It's like the most black thing that's ever been the color black. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Like Vent
I
to
do.
Black kind of just absorbs everything.
Yeah. Duncan, you said you know what it's called?
Yeah, it's Venta Black.
Venta Black. There it is. That's right. I couldn't think of Venta. That is you're like, okay, so I don't see anything out of the oh wait, I do see something out of the ordinary. There is an entire room size thing that is built between deck 7 and 8. And it is so dark that it just fades into the open space that is around it, and only because you blink your lizard eyes down and and change like a little bit of how you look a little bit, maybe because you're a soar, your visual index is different than what other people. That's a great way to put it, Cast. I like that a lot. You look up and you can see there is a room. It's probably it's about the size of a small lab. And there is an obvious turbo lift stop there. Security arrives. 2 security officers. One of them is I almost said Barzan, but I don't want to copy Discovery. One of them is from your race, any race, one of them is a
Pack lead.
one of them is a pack lead. You guys have a pack lead on your ship now. I love it. So we just know 2 security officers. One of them is a pack lead. That's all we know. Bryce, you hear Bryce say, "I'm gonna want you to stay down here when we go looking at whatever it is that we're finding up here." That's a really cool picture, Cast. That's it's kind of that sort of effect. From there, getting back to where you are, Rick, what do you want to do when you notice that?
Well, first it would be easier if we could get the turbo lift there, because there is a turbo lift stop. So I want to do a quick scan of the actual control mechanism to see if perhaps if we press 2 buttons or do something weird, we could get it to stop at this half location.
Okay. You're not picking up anything in the turbo lift itself. Actually, I'll let you make a roll. That does sound fair. I still have your sheet open. You can make a reason and engineering roll with your tricorder. That's 16, and a focus applies. Oh, by the way, the focus that applied on the last roll was EPS power systems. The reason you were able to notice the room that is kind of like blacked out against its background is because there is power running to that room. Which means as soon as Quentin sees this, he'll know not only are the internal sensors purposely telling you that this place does not exist, it's also not telling you that this place is taking some of the power that the Reliant produces.
Okay, so I'm taking another dice just because and rolling, and I get 4 successes.
Oh God! So you take
The episode.
You take a momentum and you gain 2 momentum. Your difficulty, I mostly keep the difficulty at 2. Lets you guys build momentum quick, and I spend threat quick and whatnot. But oh goodness gracious! This time, the focus that applied was experimental technology. As you scan up the as you scan along the turbo lift looking for any indication, pick up something that you weren't scanning for, and there are heat signatures that your scanner's not actually set up for, but you know whose would be. Bryce's would, because there apparently is something with the heat signature of that on the control panel. You don't have to touch the control panel, but you can. There is like a small LCARS interface that you could touch, and there are heat signatures, resonant heat signatures of pieces that people have touched. You really need a security tricorder for it, but you weren't looking for it, but that specific thing, but you found it.
Okay. Well, there's some heat signatures here that seem to be of some latent, latent nature, where they were like touching them. So maybe if we touch these locations, we can trigger a stop midway.
Bryce says, so we're talking about a code encoded into the turbo lift as well. I don't like this many secrets on a ship that I'm serving on. Let me see what I can figure out. And he steps forward with his tricorder, and he is not going to steal one of your momentum. He is just going to make his roll, and he's going to get a bonus from Baz because he has your tricorder reading all ready to go on. Does not have focus that would apply. Oh, it haven't rolled any dice this game. I like it when that happens. Boom, one success. He's like, that is not an easy code.
Well, worst comes to worst, we can just manually climb up there, but...
Worst comes to worst, we can manually climb up there. This is 15 digits, and I'm not sure that all of it is numeric or alpha. I'm not sure all of it is alphanumeric even.
All right, well, let's try and climb up there.
Who's going first? And he looks at Quentin and Rick here.
I'll go first, then we can help Quentin up, and then you come up last. I think that would be best.
He says, "Do your people any good at climbing, Rick?"
We don't.
It's like until I met you, I've never met one of your. I've never met a soar.
Well, climbing is not something we regularly do, but
he starts to pull himself up until he grabs an internal maintenance ladder and then pulls it and yanks it down. Basically, it was only you just needed to be able to strength your way up like one area, and it's Bryce. He can do that. He basically just pulls himself up and activates the maintenance ladder, and you guys climb up into. We basically have Bryce followed by Rick Tier with Quentin coming up the ladder third, climbing between deck 9, passing deck 8. And climbing toward inside of the turbo lift, climbing toward a mysterious room hidden in the center of your ship, and back in engineering. There it is. Toss me. Don't tell the elf. So back in sickbay, Doctor. You and Dr. 3 move to the IBI, and you need to make a medicine. Where am I? Where is your character sheet? There it is in front of me. You need to make a reason medicine check. 15 trauma surgery applies. 15 is your target number, and 4 is your critical range. I'm not going to put any threat on it.
All right, and I'm doing adding an extra die.
One extra die for Dr. 3 helping.
Okay. Damn.
Wow. So, no complications means that the The signal device is
There's a
not.
critical in there too. So
I know. I see that. I'm quite aware that you now build two more momentum, and you guys are at max. And you find that it's like it's essentially a signal relay. It's a transmitter device. Whereas what you had to do with the Romulan, where it was just so ingrained into so many systems, what you have to do here is simply, it's not simple by any means, but you need to disconnect only a total of five tubules from the machine part itself and pull that machine part out. Now, Starfleet technology makes it so that you're closing the wound even as you're pulling the transmission device out of the neck, and you do just an absolutely incredible job, because where the crit falls in your die rolls, that is your own. You did that. Your study hand pulled that out without any lasting damage to the neck and base of the spine area. And Dr. 3 says, I'm worried about the human. Whatever our scanners couldn't pick up or couldn't penetrate, I'm worried about what that might be.
do you not have any idea what it could be?
Internal scans, it is not a transmission device, because we can see the transmission device. It could be a bomb. It could be memory storage. It could be, did work in a computer room. It could be some sort of computer uplink. I'm just not sure. When I was liberated from the collective years ago, this piece of technology, whatever it is, was not part of the memory that I shared.
Do you think it could be hacked so we could find out what it is?
We get in, we won't know. She rolls the medical table over to the human and gets out the tool, gets out the fresh tools that she can so that she can assist you. She says, I still think we should focus on the transmitter first.
Of course.
Then look at this. You make the same kind of roll again. We're pulling the transmitter out of this guy's head.
Damn.
What is this about? What is this nonsense, Doctor? What is this nonsense of 4 successes again? You can't have any more momentum. I'll take it as threat instead. Just kidding. Once again, the transmission device is only linked to, in this case, it's only linked to its power source. And so once you get inside, you disconnect it from the power source very easily and begin to and as you are removing the implant, the transmitter, the Dr. 3 at the same time is closing the link that she's sealing off the wires and the linkage that held the piece you're pulling out to the power core. And once again, she is right behind you as the device comes out of the base of this guy's neck, and she seals up the wound, and you now have on 2 trays with no indication that they have assimilation nanites in them. They probably do. That it is Borg tech, but you have 2 Borg transmitters laying on a table, and she turns around and says, "You're good, Doctor?" For a moment.
Yeah, I'm
good for a
fine.
moment, Doctor. She turns around to the devices, and you can see that she shuts them down. And you take a good look at this cube that is in his head. It's, like I said, it's a little bit bigger than a 6-sided die. And basically, it's too big to not be, it's going to be noticed. It's a spot in his brain that is gone. And you can't immediately identify what it's connected to, if it's even connected to anything. You could spend a momentum to discover more information. You'd have to ask a specific question about the thing. You could spend a momentum to discover something more about it in this case.
We do have a lot of momentum.
Yeah,
We
you're
do.
full. You guys are full on momentum.
We should use it, but then there's the question.
You know what? I'm going to use one, so I get to ask a specific question.
Oh, yeah, as specific as you want to be, and I'll provide you an answer. That's kind of the way it really works. It's not like a wish spell in D&D. You don't have to like agonize over getting the wording right.
Well, okay, I'm going to like. Is this like a momentum for every question I ask?
Yes.
Oh
One
no.
question. Get one piece of
But-
more information.
Yeah. So just go for it.
Does that count a momentum asking that? No.
No, of course not.
Okay. So you're saying I can't like immediately tell what it's connected to. Is there a way that I could examine it to see if there's anything connected to it? Like,
Is that your question? Do you want to see what it's connected to?
yes.
Very well. With the last bits of the scene, we see Dr. Eli O'Connor looking at the scans, because when you went in to take out the transmitter device, obviously your medical equipment is also making scans of the area around it, and you're looking at those scans, you notice what must be connections for this thing, because on none of the faces of the cube on none of the faces on the cube do you have any indication of something that leads to another system. However, at every corner of the cube, so 8 places on the cube, there are, call them the tiniest of like pins that just barely stick out of the cube, and each and every one of them is connected to not technology. It is yes, at this point, at where it is, it's not technology. It is it has formed direct neural connections with the brain around it from those 8 positions. All of those back to the original. The cube has 8 things that go to the brain. All of them go to the brain.
I see.
Specific areas of the brain, I'd let you know that for 1 momentum. It's not going to a power system. It's not going to any of the Borg systems that you recognize. It's directly neuronically tied into the brain. It's not like Borg tubes that are connecting it to the brain either.
Marcus Graves, he's got a good there in the chat. Is this device even Borg?
Scans tell you that yes, this
Damn.
device is Borg in nature.
Wow.
Okay, so will removing this hurt him? Like, will it kill him?
No, it would leave him brain dead.
So it basically will kill him.
Basically, yes. It would not kill his his physical body. It would not do that, but it would indeed most likely it would render him either brain dead because of severing neural connections that it may be using. You're even not 100% sure that it will do that, but your guess is that it will, because the cube is providing what looks like stable area for these 8 neural connections into his brain. And if you take that away, that stable area goes away. Whatever it's replacing goes away too.
Okay, how many questions do I have left?
It depends on how much momentum you want to spend. As I said, you still don't know what parts of the brain specifically this go to.
Okay, I'm using 2 more questions because we're going to get this back. We're rolling very well tonight.
Okay, go
You
ahead.
say that now.
Right? I love it. You say that now. It's great.
Oh, I'm creating drama for the viewers. Or suspense. That's
So
Suspense
go
and-
ahead and ask something specific or whatever you want to ask.
So, what parts of the brain is it connected to?
It has connected itself via neurological connection to the part of the brain. 4 of the connections of the little cube, ones that come off of the top of it, all connect to the memory centers of the brain.
So this is storage, I'm guessing.
The parts from the bottom of it all connect to nerve clusters along the spine. Those nerve clusters all are it's the kind of thing like there are parts of your spine that if the nerves in that part of your spine just stopped working, you'd never move again, essentially. And all of so the 4 on the top go to the memory centers of the brain, and the 4 on the bottom go to 4 areas on the spine that if those areas were hurt, you're a doctor. You look at this and go, whoa, okay. That if those areas were hurt, it would do much to cripple the physical body. So it's connected to things that are important both mentally and physically. And you still have another question. So I'm going to burn 2. I'm going to get 2 questions. What's your last question?
Is this infectious? Like, if I leave it in there, is this going to like reassimilate him, like nanites and all that?
If I leave this in there, does it have It is definitely on the scans. On the scans, it can look just like a just the size of it is just a cube. But when you focus in really, really close, there are nanites swarming the surface of this thing. You don't know if they're assimilation nites, but they are there, making it very obviously Borg technology. Because as the closer you get in on it, the more it looks like the edges of the cube or the faces of the cube are moving because there's nanites all over them. I need like 2 minutes because I gotta I need a bio break. I'll be right back. I promise. So as Eli discovers this information, I caught the tail end of what you guys were saying, and I see it in the chat. As Eli gathers the last piece of this, this information, Bryce reaches the area just above you, Rick Tier, in the turbo lift shaft, and you are at what is very obviously a turbo lift door. He climbs up a little bit above it, and he says, "Do you have your engineering tools to open this?"
Well, yeah, I would.
And you saw him when he first got there. Let me just add this. As he climbed up there, he tapped the keypad, and you heard he tapped like 4 or 5 numbers into the keypad, and you heard a like he just tapped his security, chief security officer code in there, and it didn't let him in. And he goes, "Do you have your engineering kit to get us in here?"
I'm going to go and try and get us in there.
All right. You, Rick, have a good engineering skill for certain. And what is it to open a door?
Either
Doesn't want to
control.
let you in. All right, let's make it control engine. Oh my gosh, you have a 16, and this is experimental technology.
Do I have? Is there any momentum left?
There are 3 points of momentum left.
All right.
Your crit range is a 5.
Okay, I'm gonna use a. Yeah. Crit range is a 5. Target is 16.
Yep, I'm going to use my last 4 points of threat. 16 and above is not just a failure; it's a complication.
Okay. And
oh my gosh, I just said motherfuck beetles. All right, well then, Baz, you break out your handy dandy super spy investigation kit. No, I'm just kidding. You break out your engineering kit and try the lock on this door. And so here's the thing: whoever put the lock on this door was good. You gain 3 momentum back for the group, bringing you back up to 5, and like I said, whoever put the lock on this is one of those moments that Rick Tier gets to feel really good, like, about his skills, because this guy, whoever put the lock here, was really good. None of your command accesses, probably even including the captain's, would get you in here, but in a matter of a few moments, tinkering with it with your engineering kit, the door slides open. And beyond, there appears to be a small Starfleet tech lab. And Bryce, steps off of the, steps from the shaft with you. And you can see, like, it still almost looks invisible even this close up. It's like a door opens in blackness. Like, there's no indication there's a deck here. And the only difference between it and a regular deck is that a regular deck probably runs about 8 to 8.5 feet tall. This deck runs about 6 feet tall. So, you and Bryce step into this room, and Quentin is pretty much right behind you. And the lab that you see in front of you has something you don't understand in the center of it. It is a large circular console. This is insane. You see a large circular console, and above that console, it's not a circle. It's not a sphere. It's not a circle. It's kind of an amalgamation of shapes, of lines of different colors that run into each other, and there are places in it that have little bright spots and that kind of thing. And you do not, though you recognize that this looks like Federation tech, you don't recognize the tech. In addition to that, area, there is one other computer console that seems to be connected to. There's a spot that's no bigger than the size of one of your transporter pads that has 6. Only say that they seem like they're probably transport enhancers or transport themselves, because the computer that seems to be connected to them is very obviously a Federation transporter computer. There is a small utilitarian desk and a chair, and a pad computer unit sits on the desk. There is no one in here.
Maybe this would be an opportunity to see if we comms in or out.
This would be an opportunity if I can get comms in or out. Do one of you want to try? Bryce reaches for his comm badge, unless one of you do.
I will reach out and no, I'll let Bryce do it.
Okay, Bryce says, Lieutenant Bryce to the bridge. There is no response. The bridge never gets this call. Lieutenant Bryce to main security. He looks over at the two of you and just shakes his head.
I'm going to tap my badge and Rick T to Bryce. See if there is that, whether it's outside or...
Bryce's badge says Rick Tier to Bryce.
I think we have a Faraday cage.
Something like. But who would put a Faraday cage on our ship?
Who would put Starfleet technology building a Faraday cage and then kidnap Starfleet personnel, assuming that computer?
No
think-
response.
Yeah.
Sure.
So there's not a tie-in to the ship's main computer, at least that recognizes our voice access.
We should leave some kind of tracking program here to see what
Leave some kind of tracking program here. Bryce agrees to see who comes and goes. Find out what they do. The doors behind you, whoosh, shut.
I think they have a tracking.
A computer voice says, personnel recognize Quentin Reynolds, Chief Science Officer. Rick Tier, Chief of Engineering. Bryce, Chief of Security. This device has not been turned over to you. The room begins to fill with gas. Back to the bridge. Marcus, you're finishing off the reports about who is going to be traded with who as you're approaching the area that you're going to meet the Ticonderoga, who will take the passengers that you have and any wounded that are going to go with them, right? And Kendra, you probably are. I'm guessing you're looking at the fact that it's been.
I was gonna
18
say,
minutes.
can I make a roll?
You certainly can. Like, to keep your cool if you want. It's been 18 minutes when they said 30, and you haven't heard from them.
Basically,
Kara,
an intuition check.
Go ahead.
I don't know what that would be.
I know, that's why I'm asking Baz. What would be a good intuition check here?
I would perhaps say Insight Command.
Insight Command. You have a target number of 14. Or text. Right. Your intuition tells you that if he could have, your husband would have checked in before 18 minutes. And if Bryce could have, he would have checked in at 15 minutes. You're not sure about Rick, but your intuition tells you that you know that Quentin would have called you at the 15-minute mark to be like, we're doing okay. And you know that that Bryce would have called you to be like, this is what we found, sir, kind of thing. So take of it what you will. Your intuition tells you that half an hour might be too long to be out of touch.
It's her comm badge. Kendra to Quentin.
No response.
She taps her comm badge again. Kendra to Marcus.
Well, Marcus is
here.
on the bridge with you.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
Sorry, I'm
let's
sorry.
actually play.
Yeah, you
Well,
two
actually, let's play
and
that. He just kind of looks behind him and just says, "Yeah, Mark is here."
actually. And Kara, you're there too. And the two NPCs of note that are there are the Klingon at Ops and Yannick at Tactical right now.
I think something's wrong. We need to check on our team that's investigating the little mystery.
Will it involve
Okay.
blowing anything up?
Let's get a specialist down there right away and deploy a security team. If Maddox is there and is not reporting back, we definitely need to treat this as a possible threat to the entire ship, especially since we've been dealing with Borg. So Marcus taps his comm badge and says, "Lieutenant Tardigrade." Yeah. So Marcus knows
Kara
about
is-
the crawls, the middle space, right?
Yeah, you know that all
Yeah,
of
okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Just making sure that he can describe it to him. So he goes, "Marcus to Lieutenant Tardigrade."
Of course, he says yes.
Lieutenant Tardigrade here.
We need you to perform a spot check on some of our crew. Quentin, Rick, and Bryce have not reported in after checking a small space in between decks 7 and 8.
Oh yeah, that one. I'll go there right away.
Spore jump.
Really?
Yes, it's an emergency.
Okay. And
And he spore jumps
Okay.
to some point on the deck. He doesn't know where. He's just going to go there.
Okay, Tardigrade teleports into the empty space between decks near the turbo lift, where he knows that he has seen through his like special tardigrade eyes, he has seen 2 junior members of the crew go in there and leave there. Nothing. It doesn't seem to be anything bad. It probably, unless John puts together that it looks like it's hidden, which really that's the kind of thing Quentin only found out when he got like crazy roll, right? So Tardy needs to make a perception check to see if he notices the room. There it is exactly.
Okie dokie.
So insight and command is 8 and 3. That is 11.
And no threat?
No threat. I have used all of my threat.
Oh.
One success. You see the room because you see the last blip of light as the doors close and it becomes dark again. And then you can spore jump right into the room if you would like to.
Well, part of me knows what's in the room, but Lieutenant Tardigrade doesn't. So he's going to immediately... actually, wait, how close is he to the room?
Call it a matter of yards, a matter of like part of a football field.
So he'll lunge and try to burrow his way through the wall.
What can tardigrades not eat?
It's just
what would make him go, ow, that's like really, like dig on it and be like, ow, that's really hard. Like,
well, like some fancy it like neutronium, possibly, because I mean,
so
we've seen him scratch through.
Yeah, the walls are made of some kind of very heavy metal. It may not be neutronium. Tardigrade certainly doesn't know what it's made of, but Tardigrade does know that it is very, very hard, and you could dig through it, but it's going to take you a minute.
And he's going to be like, "This. They call me for emergency. This is an emergency." Does he recognize that it's a door that's in front of him?
Yes. Once you're close enough, you can see that yes, it is a door. It has a door shape. It looks like a turbo lift connector door.
Okay. He's gonna grab the door, try to sink his claws in as deep as he can, and he's gonna try to spore jump the door off.
Okay. You spore jump back like 15 feet, and the door does not come with you.
Ah.
And all of the 3 of you inside of the room, just as the door shut, whatever it said, something about something identified and then named all of you, and right after it says that, the door shut, and then right after the door shut, there's like a breath, and then it sounds like some monster, like out of like the horror movie, tearing at the door, trying to rip it down and in there and kill you. There is something horrifying right outside of that door, and the 3 of you, well, Bryce doesn't, but the 2 of you have a little bit of a start at that when it happens, and then that circle of what you can best describe as they are some sort of transport enhancer, but I'm not sure in what way. They glow for a moment, and Rick, crewman Astrid Johansson, is standing in the middle of them, and her eyes go incredibly wide, seeing the 3 of you standing there, and her mouth kind of like drops open, like, I have to explain, don't I? Her mouth drops open and goes, I'm going to have to explain this, aren't I?
Yes, first get us out of here.
I wasn't really talking to you. He is going to want to talk to you now. Fuck. And she taps her comm badge. Those things on the floor light up again, and she disappears. She actually says fuck as the explicative of like, oh, this is bad. Like, you can tell whatever she was like, oh, this is bad. This is bad. And Tardigrade, what do? The door didn't come off with you.
He's gonna try to spore jump inside the room now.
This is awesome. you spore jump, and so you see spore space in the mycelial realm, and of course, John Tardigrade does in a way that no one else does. It is where he's from. You can see the patterns of the way that things move, and you can teleport from inside of a spaceship on the other side of the galaxy to Earth if you wanted to, right? So it should be no big deal to spore jump into a room that you think is right in front of you, but once you're in spore space, you can't see it right in front of you. And he needs to
I
make
got a
another
reaction to this.
perception check. He's got to make another perception check because it's
Okay.
possible that he will see something, which is again an 8 and a 3 is an 11. One success. What he sees is the area where the room should be is strangely clear of connection, like the mycelial connections that flow through everything, but just enough. It doesn't look out of place. It's like it's shielding itself from the mycelial realm.
So Lieutenant Tardigrade has a reaction because this is completely new and he's very frustrated. So his reaction is
Fuck.
Oh goodness.
we gotta give him that.
I'm good to give him that. So a moment later inside of the room, I actually on the bridge, Tardigrade's been gone for like a minute or so, or he's had enough time to do a couple of things and he hasn't reported back yet.
Security, what's your progress getting towards the unknown space between Stack 7 and 8?
You get a this is security team beta 3, sir. We are at the turbo lift entrance that the officers went up. I can't even say I can really see the thing, but I know it's up there. You want us to go
All right,
up?
keep an open comm.
Keep an open comm. Yes, sir.
Keep an open comm. Get up there. See what's going on. Try to make contact with Lieutenant Tardigrade if he's up there. But yeah, otherwise report in. Also, I want us to prepare transporters and any tactical solutions that may be necessary, including a photon torpedo, if it comes to that.
You hear, "Aye, sir," and then just before the transmission cuts out, you hear one of them say, "This is so above our pay grade." And the two of them, we see the audience sees the two of them start climbing up that ladder that Bryce brought down. This is so above our pay grade. So they're climbing up toward the thing. And what do the three of you on the bridge do? I mean, right now, even Tardigrade hasn't checked in. Marcus did a thing. What does Kendra do? And Kara also. What was that?
Sir, permission to go down there.
Permission granted.
Kendra makes her way down to the turbo lift shaft.
Okay. You take a different turbo lift to get down to where security is now climbing up, and find another security team has moved in. Another two security officers have moved in with hand phasers. Basically, they have two guys guarding one turbo lift, and now they have two guys climbing up a turbo lift. And when they see you, they both almost in unison are like, "Commander." You can see the scene as has been seen by those before you. The turbo lift is open up to a place that by this point they can point it out to you. It's really hard to see. Really hard to see. But it's up there for sure.
I want to do a
I love it.
I want to do a like a dice roll of some sort, and I'm trying to think of what exactly I want to do. I'm going to climb up there.
Okay.
And I'm going to use my tricorder, even though I know everybody else has used their tricorders already.
Mm-hmm. Security's on the outside of the door, and they're like, "Man, this is locked tight." Or they say, "Sir, this is locked tight."
And I'm gonna do a scan for any temporal activity that might be happening.
Tardigrade is over to your left by about 20 or 25 yards, and he just is like, I imagine him just floating there being like, because this is like the moment after he was like, fuck. So he's still like, why did this happen? And you run your scanner over it, and it's sure enough, you find a locked door that a sealed and locked door that looks like a turbo lift connector, and that you can tell from the size of the room beyond, it looks like a small lab.
But do I pick up any?
No, you do not pick up any temporal particles of any variety or other.
Well, dang it.
Back in the room, Quentin, do you back in the room, Quentin, do you say something along those lines that you typed into chat?
I've said a lot of lines in chat, but
it's
so first off, are we being gassed still?
Yes, you're still being gassed.
And Bryce is not being affected by said gas, right?
No, he is not. And you can tell that the effect on you is intensely calming. It's not putting you out. It's not even making you woozy, but it's making you really, really calm about the current situation. Rick and Quentin, what do you do? I'll tell you what Bryce is doing after.
So probably should try and get the door open, or at least vent whatever this is.
I'll see if I can scan.
Bryce walks over to the door and pounds on it as hard as he can with his data-like strength. And for Kendra and the two security officers outside, the door suddenly shakes as if some great beast is inside trying to force its way out.
Kendra yells, "Can you guys hear us?"
For you. And here we are at the end of the episode, except for one last scene. The two last scenes that I would like to make sure that we get done. The gas clears from the room. It had a blue color to it, and Rick, you basically scan it as it's the equivalent of going to the dentist and getting happy gas. You're really just like, you're not really feeling very violent or like just none of that right now.
So like a low-powered anesthetizine kind of thing?
Yes. Essentially, you've been dosed by a medical low-powered anesthetizine gas, and you see that circle of lights shine, and you see a silvery. You don't even see the transporter beam, but you see the person materialize from the beam as as it is. But what I'm getting at is that there is no indication of like the transporter beam, just the person suddenly beaming in, which I find very, very cool. And I'm not even gonna worry about I'm not even gonna worry about it. Instead, I'm just gonna be like, all right, everybody, this person right here appears on the transporter pad. That doesn't look anything like a transporter pad through a transporter beam that doesn't look anything like a transporter beam. It's controlled by a computer system that doesn't look anything like a computer system that you know, and would probably take hours to understand on your best days. Appears on the transporter pad and steps forward, and he says, who I would have expected. Greetings, gentlemen. My name is Franklin Drake. I need to speak with our captain. Yeah, there he is. There he is, done in done in art shop. And
Art
he steps
breeder.
off, and that's kind of the hard, boom. That's like the game down surprise moment. Is he steps off of the transporter pad and says, "Not who I would have expected, but hello, gentlemen. My name is Franklin Drake, and I need to speak with your captain." And that's kind of like the cool credits roll end moment of you were right all along, Kara. You're like, damn it. It is section 31.